Kunst and all.
Hey, welcome to Kunst and All. We are Lorenzo Alberti,
Nastasia Filippo,
and Francesco Ricci.
three dancers who are super passionate about giving you a peek behind the curtain of the art we create on stage.
In this podcast, we're diving deep into what really goes into putting on a show. It's not just about the dances you see on stage. We're talking about the whole crew, the orchestra, the costume designers, the health teams, the admin people, and everyone else who helps make a production happen.
Exactly. We want to share the stories of the folks you don't always see, but who make everything tick. It's all about the hard work, the teamwork, and the creativity that goes into bringing a performance to life. This is
Kunst and All.
Today's guest is Federico Frigo, Swiss-born conductor and former ballet dancer trained at the Accademia Teatro alla Scala in Milan and a graduate of the Hamburg Ballet School. Federico began his artistic journey with percussion and later composition studies at the Conservatorio Verdi in Milan. He became the first Swiss to graduate from the Italian Conducting Academy under Maestro Gilberto Serembe. Federico's rich and diverse artistic journey brings unique depth and expression to his performances, which have captivated audiences across Spain, Italy, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Germany.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Kunst and All. I'm incredibly excited to have a new guest today with us. He's a former colleague and we went to school together, and dear friend Federico Frigo, who was a former dancer with me at the Hamburg Ballet School and now transitioned to Conductor. So, hi Fede, so happy to have you here with us.
Hi Lorenzo, very happy to be here with you all.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I think we should start to, my first question is what motivated you to shift from dancing to conducting?
Yes, well, you have to know, it has always been a great passion of mine, and actually it was my dream. I remember when I was 3 or 4 years old in my room conducting in the air. But somehow, I started by dancing because I thought it would be, I don't really know what I thought. I was just, I felt the connection to music, and somehow I thought this was it. But as I grew up, and of course I took music classes, percussion and all of that, I've realized it wasn't what I actually wanted. Let's say it didn't let me express myself as I wanted. Because, of course, there are similarities, and we were talking with you about it earlier. But as a dancer, if you think about it, through a given choreography, you make music visual, right? But as a conductor, through your through your movements, you get to shape it. And this is what fascinated me the most. So at a certain point of my career, I said, you know what, it's one life and I want to try it. So I left everything. I went to Milan, as you guys said, studied composition first, orchestra conducting, and now here I am.
Amazing.
Would you say your background as a dancer influenced the way that you approach your conducting an orchestra?
Yes. Well, if you think about it, it's the first approach is very similar. Of course, there are two separate ways of thinking and getting the job done, but it all starts with breathing, right? You guys know, before a jump, before a pirouette, before a lift, you breathe with your partner, or if it's a solo, by yourself, in order to prepare for what's about to happen. And as a conductor, your job is to make the orchestra breathe together. You have 50, 60, 70, 80 people in front of you, and in order for them to play together, they have to breathe together. And woodwinds, they have to breathe to make a sound. But also, if you think about it, strings, before they put the arco on the strings, they breathe, and your job is just to indicate where and how to breathe. So it's pretty, let's say it's pretty similar, but
it's much like a corps de ballet.
Yes.
Like to bring it all
yes,
together.
it's all about bringing people together.
No, I was curious because you said before that you started like basically like moving in the air, no, when you were a kid, like in
Right.
your room and doing things. And I wonder, like, was it you who asked to then, because maybe this moving you translated as like, oh, I like to move and I like to do this, or perhaps I should study like dance. And or was it like maybe your parents that they saw you like moving and doing things, and then they thought like, oh, he likes to move, he likes to move his body, and dancing is like a bedroom, so maybe you should study dance.
It's a great question. No, my parents have never been involved in my decisions. It's always been me. And I've got two younger sisters. They were the ones who took classes, dance classes. And I remember I would go with my mom to pick them up, and I saw there was no man around. So I thought to myself, well, let's just try, you know. And of course I had a passion for dance, don't get me wrong. I really loved it. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I misinterpret my wanting to move to music and thought it would be dancing. But in a way, you know, conducting is, well, it's not dancing because you have to, it's not a choreography. First of all, you don't need to stretch your feet, which is great. Love that. But, I mean, I wish I could tell you guys how it feels to move. And because of your gesture, sound happens. Like, it's great. I mean, it gives me goosebumps even if I think about it. So there is a great deal of connection between not dance, but movement and conducting for sure. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Do you find that it can also become very emotional? Because some pieces of music, I mean, when we listen to them, it's almost like we want to conduct it ourselves. How is that for you?
Yes, but this mostly happens when I'm not conducting the music. Because, you know, as a conductor, it's a multitasking job, let's say. You have to take care of so many things. And of course, you can let yourself go to a certain extent. But the great Italian conductor, Arturo Toscanini, used to say, keep your heart warm, but your mind cool. So never let go too much, otherwise it might go out of your hands.
Right. That's a good advice, I think, for anyone who pursues artistic jobs.
You know, I have a question, like as a former dancer and understander of our art form, let's say, how do you ensure your conducting complements the choreography? Because we were talking about it, like there's a little bit of misconception. There's sometimes, especially maybe soloists that come to you and be like, can you make sure this part of the pas de deux or coda, whatever, is a bit slower? And you will explain me, actually, as an orchestra, there is a sound that needs to be fulfilled. And sometimes when the dancers just ask, for example, I would say in a coda, can you do my fuerte slower? And for you, it doesn't really work like this. As a conductor, you cannot just be like to the orchestra people, guys, we need to like slow down just this section. So, because I feel there's a bit of misconception also, like talking to you in this past 2 days, I really realized that we don't know much and we don't understand that much, and we ask for some needs that they cannot eventually be satisfied for I want to say mathematical reason, and not just because of ego. Sometimes we think, the ego of the conductor, but actually no, it's like a thing that actually cannot really happen. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, well, let's say first of all that if the choreography is well done and is well put in with the music, you don't really have so many problems, right? So, of course, as a conductor for ballet, you have to know it's a collaborative job. You have to accommodate, demands from choreographers, from ballet masters, sometimes from single dancers. And if you accept to conduct for dance or to play in an orchestra which plays for ballets, you have to know that a certain amount of flexibility is asked. But then again, you are the conductor, you are in charge of the music, and you have to know where you can up to when you can accommodate the demands, and where you have to say up till then and then no more. Because music needs a certain flow for it to function, and if you destroy this flow, it cannot be called music anymore. So this brings another problem with it. If you get to meet the choreographer beforehand or work with the choreographer for a new production, it's great because you get to say your own opinions while he choreographs the piece, right? So, but the problem starts when you are invited to conduct like a Wiederaufnahme, so the ballet has been already performed. You don't have much to say about it. So there are a lot of examples about this. For instance, in Swan Lake, there is this famous violin solo, and sometimes the choreographers want it very, very slow. And it can also happen that orchestras, the concertmaster says, sorry, won't accommodate that. That's too slow for me. And then it's your job to kind of make them understand that that it has been written in another way, but artistically speaking, this stage needs that because the choreographer back then wanted it to be like that. So it's also very much a job where you need to, compromise. Compromise is everything.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes, especially you mentioned, codas or variation solos. At the end of the day, you want the dancers to perform at their best, right? And this involves also, as we said, compromises. But then again, dancers need to understand that the conductor cannot follow the dancer all the time, right? So for instance, if you take a female variation, right? She piques, she finds her balance, and she decides to stay, right? It's not my job to wait for her to come down because she made a decision out of the blue, which is fine, is great. But she has to know that she will have to cut the choreography after that or make it faster. So build in, we say a rubato, within a tempo. When you go a bit faster, a bit slower, and you find a tempo again. But then again, if we take the example of a male variation, right? At the end, pirouette, 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 double tour on the knee. Of course, we have to get the accent with them, right? So I wait for them. The orchestra waits for the last core. And of course, it's my job to look at the stage and so we can be together. But it's not always the case. We have to know when it's important and when it's not. For instance, in mise-en-scènes, in classical ballets, we don't need to look at the stage because basically nothing happens, right? Mm-hmm. So, and for it to know, you need to know the choreography. Well, not the choreography, but you need to know what happens on stage, right?
Before, when you were introducing yourself, you also talked that after pursuing a little bit your career in the dancing, you felt that was not really your call, no? That you couldn't express completely yourself in the right way. And so then you decided to transition from dancing into like conducting. And what were the most challenging aspects when this decision came to life?
Well, you guys know that dancing in a professional company means probably dancing 7-8 hours a day. Meanwhile, if you go back to studying, it means sitting on a desk for 7 hours or 8 hours a day. That was a great problem because, I was used to dancing, never standing still. And also, it was very hard for me to concentrate at first. And especially composition is something that it's really hard to study and it needs concentration, and you just actually work with your brain, not much playing, not much conducting. And if we think about conducting, the hardest part was to learn to stand still in a way. I remember my professor, he used to hold on to my knees and keep them grounded, because I remember I would releve all the time for an accent or something.
Right.
And then I realized you need to be stable in a way. It's like a bit like yoga. The powerhouse.
No.
The sound happens here, right? And that's also why maybe a lot of conductors have a belly, because the sound your sound is here.
The core.
The real sound. And so if you jump around without a proper understanding of what's going on, it makes things fall apart. And also orchestras are very sensible to gestures. They might not always look at you, but they feel what you're doing, what you want to do, what you want them to do. And if you give them too many inputs, too many informations, they'll
interpret it.
Yes, and then doesn't have the flow that it needs. So that was very hard for me at the beginning. But then again, I got to a point where I was too stiff, because I kind of worked so hard to stand still, just do this, just do that, and I got to a point where I felt horrible, because I felt I was caged, trapped in a body that couldn't move, But now I think I got to the point where I'm trying to find the right balance, Of course, there is the technical aspect, but as everything in life, at one point you have to take it aside and, just let it be. So.
And mentally, how did you leave this transition? Well, were you okay with from one day to another? How did it happen? Is something that you felt since a long time, or at some point, I don't know, for example, the season finished and you're like, okay, that was my last season, now I'm gonna do something else? How did it happen, if you can talk about it?
Yes, of course. No, it didn't happen out of the blue, of course not. It was a huge decision, of course, as you all. I left home very early and to pursue also my dream, let's say, and to realize kind of the right direction but not the real path I wanted to pursue. It took a lot of courage, let's say, and I came to a point I was, I think, 16, 17 probably, and I already knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. But then again, I'm also someone who wants to finish things. It's been very hard for me, for my family as well, so I wanted to get a diploma first of all. But meanwhile, dancing, I already took classes. I already, I played percussion all my life anyway. So it didn't come out of the blue, as I said. And the transition also was hard because I talked to many conductors or people in the music business, and they almost all told me, it's too late, forget it. You'll never achieve that.
Mm.
So.
And you were very young.
So. And I was very young, but probably not as young as they thought.
As they thought, or as one usually does, let's say.
Exactly. But luckily nowadays you can, pursue your dreams in very different ways. And of course, it's not that I was 25 and I said, I want to become a concert pianist. Of course, that would be way too late. But in this case, I put my ego aside, let's say, because by then I was also a soloist in a company in Germany, and I said, okay, fine. From this season on, I'll start with something new. And of course, it was hard because passing from being a soloist on stage, everyone claps for you, to being a student in a class where no one knows who you are and you're exactly the same as everyone else, is a great shock. And I knew it would be hard, but I thought it would be easier, to be honest. Looking back, those years were very, very tough. Because of course, age, we continue living, we get older, and you're never sure that you'll make it.
Until when you do. But then again, in art, no one makes it, really. I mean, if you think you've done it, you didn't get the point. Yeah,
right?
It's also very relative, in my opinion, in art.
Yes.
Because maybe you can make it for certain contests, for certain crowd or people, but let's say maybe you can become very famous, let's say, in Germany and be the top one and very national, like Jewel, and then maybe you go in the US and no one knows you, so that's why it's very relative. It depends where you are, which job you do, and the contest a lot.
Yes.
My other question is, being my ballet dancer myself, I know there are different technique, as in Russian technique, like Paganova, then is the French technique, Cecchetti. is there are also different technique, because you have been conducting in different countries. Are there different technique, approach? Yeah, mostly like if they work in different ways based on country. Because I want to say almost like it's like a language. So it's like, do they interpret the language in a different way?
Yes, so there are certain techniques. There is the Italian school, the Russian school. There is, the European school, mostly Finnish. But at the end of the day, what a conductor does is he has to bring the information to the musicians in front of him through gestures. So sometimes it can also be that a conductor doesn't have a technique, but he's still a great conductor because somehow through charisma, through eye contact, through I don't know what, he can achieve that task. So yes, there are different techniques. And also what's interesting, you mentioning about conducting in different countries, is what's very hard about this profession is also, as a pianist, you practice with the piano. Of course, you might get another piano in another venue, but eventually it's you playing the keys, right? So you practice your own technique. As a conductor, you study yourself, imagining the sound you want to achieve, and you also think about what gestures might suit that very moment. But then 2 days before the concert, you start with rehearsals, and maybe in the first 5 minutes you realize they're not playing what I thought they would play. They're not, my gesture doesn't function with them. So you have to be extremely elastic to realize that and to change it. And that is very hard because you cannot think about it beforehand. And this is hard because you have to be sure about what you do. Of course, you are the leader in a way. But then again, you have to be extremely, extremely active in realizing, it's not working. Let me just change things.
Right. So it's very improvisational, let's say.
Yes. It's all about hearing what they give you and reacting to it.
It's a real communication then.
It is a communication.
It's a real communication because that's what should happen. Or you should listen first or like seeing and then like at the same time reacting based on how they respond to it.
And also they listen to what they say because they're all professionals. They probably played the piece more than you ever have conducted it. So they normally offer you great things. So don't always look for something else. Maybe just be open and say, I didn't think about that specific solo to be that way, but it actually functions here. So just be open.
I have another question. This is my curiosity. I don't know if maybe people are more curious too, or maybe they know already. But the gestures you have, are there like specific sets kind of gestures, or you make them up? Like how does it work? Because I don't know this. Maybe people know, but it's for myself.
So you would love me to say it's all made up, right? But it's actually not. It's all part of the technique.
Okay.
Of course, in school, you learn it properly. And then as you go on, as you become an artist or whatever, you kind of forget about the technique. You just maybe do whatever. Yes.
Or you have it as a guideline, maybe.
Exactly. So you have to know also that, especially in a concert, a symphonic concert, the conductor is not needed all the time, right? The great amount of work happens during rehearsals. So during the concert, you have to, of course, let them play together. So through beating and through, but then again, letting them go and be there for them when they need you. So if you realize that maybe someone is off or that the flow is going in the wrong direction or they're starting to drag, be there for them, but not overimpose yourself all the time. Because if you do too much all the time, they will shut off. They will not look for you anymore. So it needs also a lot of empathy, understanding.
That's beautiful.
Who you have in front of you, and Did you find that different than working with a ballet company, like having this empathy for like who you're working with?
Yes, because in the corps de ballet, you have your own personality, but if we think about Swan Lake, you have to be the swans. You cannot stand out, otherwise you're a bad dancer. Same in the choir, you can sing beautifully, but if you happen to be in the choir, you should sing without letting your voice outstand the others. And here is, of course, it's much different because you have to have your own personality, but also let them have their own moment of freedom. So if, for instance, if you have a solo in the first flute, give them the freedom, then maybe say what you have to say, but let them first bring their self out of the group, And as a dancer, you don't really get that, I guess.
Well, I guess there could be, I think you said something very important before, which for me the importance, it falls on the relation, because with you as a conductor and then having to guide an orchestra, it's like when we have our ballet masters, our directors guiding us through rehearsals. And you said something very important. You said the technique stands more with the gestures, so on guiding them through the technique on the rehearsals. Then after you achieved kind of what you wished to achieve, you need to let them free a little bit to express themselves, otherwise they don't function well, right? You said that.
Yes.
And for me, this sometimes what is missing in the ballet world, not to generalize too much, but in my experience it was that we were guided until the last show with precise guidelines or precise things of how we should dance, how we should interpret the role. We weren't really given too much freedom, and I think this is a good lesson we can take from from what we're talking about here.
Yes.
It's yes, guiding, yes, putting the technique first, yes, achieving some kind of quality or something you need to achieve, but then after leave the freedom for the dancers to express themselves once they achieved that that level that we want to achieve.
I have a question going back to technique. The famous stick, conductor stick.
The baton.
The baton.
The wand.
Yes. Is it a personal choice? Is that again a technique, schools of thoughts? Does it come to a personal taste of the conductor itself? How does it work really?
So back then, but long time ago, people would use a long wooden stick. The famous Jean-Baptiste Lully used to guide the little orchestra through beating tempo, on the floor. Eventually, he injured himself by beating his foot, and he died because of that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but well.
Look at that history.
But anyway, talking about it nowadays, if you think about it, it's a tool that makes your life a bit easier, because if you would have, with the stick in your hands, it amplifies your gestures. So imagine conducting for 3 hours. It's very demanding. Of course, maybe not as dancing, but still. So with the stick in your hand, you can amplify your gesture by moving less. And also, it attracts the attention of the whole orchestra to the tip, so they play more precisely, in my own opinion. But then again, there are certain conductors who prefer not to use a stick. So at the end of the day, it's a personal choice, and it also depends on what you play. So if it's a small piece, maybe for string orchestra, you prefer to shape the music with your hands. If you have a huge orchestra, maybe a very rhythmical piece, for instance, Stravinsky or something, then you might want to get a stick. And also, to be honest, it just looks great, because it gives the
a certain
conductor
demeanor.
look.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a doctor with how do you call it?
Yeah, the thing. I know what you mean.
Well, whatever.
But then, when you tell someone, "Oh yeah, I'm a ballet dancer," the first thing they ask, "Oh, do you use point shoes?" Right?
Exactly.
So
It's a staple.
It's the same as conductors with a baton. Yeah.
I have another technical question here. You only have 2 hands, and it's a naive question. And there's so many different groups of instruments that you have to manage.
Yes.
How does that happen?
So
When there's so many people in the room having the
Stick.
stick, the baton.
yes, of course. So normally you use the baton for beating tempo. So as simple as that. And with your left hand, you shape, the musical phrases. You show the climax. You show maybe the phrasing, the tempi. You show if you want to outline a certain phrase from a certain group of people, of instruments, you can do that with your left hand, or you can just stand still with your left hand, if it's not needed. But what's also very important is your eyes, your face, because you conduct with them a lot as well. You can show feelings with that, with your face, with your emotions. So it's not all done by your hands. There is a great video about Leonard Bernstein, and well, of course, maybe he was just showing off, but you can see that he starts the piece, the fourth movement of the 88th Symphony by Haydn, if I'm not mistaken, and he just conducts with his eyes. He looks at the orchestra members with the eyes, and they know exactly when, where, and what. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, when they need you, when they don't need you, so you can also indicate.
I want to go back to performances. How do you prepare for a performance, and what is your routine, let's say, before a show?
Well, how I prepare for a concert, for instance?
Exactly. Like before a show, I would have my warm-up class, I do my makeup, and then get into
of
costume.
course, I've studied the piece beforehand. We had rehearsals, so what I normally like to do is to take a walk, because by taking a walk, you are physically involved, but your mind is still free. So I can go through the score without having it in front of me. Yeah, it also relaxes me in a way, because if I can walk freely and I know the score, let's say by heart, then it's a confirmation that my work that has been done up to then was great.
Right.
Or if I have certain places where I'm not sure, I can go, home or into the theater and look it up and see. So that's what I do normally. And of course, by having rehearsals beforehand, normally two days before, so we have a great deal of time to fix things.
We were talking also before that sometimes it's very different, for example, how an orchestra works and a company of ballet dancers works. We will be noticing in advance if we are sick or if there's a change of cast, but sometimes you were explaining me that eventually you did a morning rehearsal with let's say a cast of orchestra, and then you might go in the evening and it's a completely different person or people. It's very, very different. And also we were, if you can explain a bit, because you were telling me about it, I thought each musician would have his own score, but actually it's not like this. So if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so in big theaters or big orchestras, it also happens that, as you mentioned, they have, let's say, different casts. And so it might happen that you rehearse in the morning, you already tell them what you want, where and what, and then you arrive to the next rehearsal and you hear, oh, but wait, it doesn't sound like we rehearsed, and then you realize, oh, but it's because there are other people in front of me. So, and this is a bit of a problem, because if you don't have that many rehearsals and you keep rehearsing and people keep changing, you don't really get forward. Yes, the score is only one. Let's say first flute, there is one score, so they can write the corrections in that score, so the next person eventually can read them. But then, of course, it's a matter of interpretation. So you never know if they're going to play the same way that you asked.
And their handwriting.
Handwriting, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But then, again, it also happened to me as a dancer that you might have pas de deux, and then during the class, before the show, someone comes up to you and says, oh, look, she got injured this afternoon, she fell on the stairs, we have to change. And then you don't know what to do. And this is actually a bigger problem, because the dancer cannot read the score. They have to
Yeah.
know it by heart. So
Yeah.
you have to hope that someone else in the company knew that spot. Otherwise,
Yes.
good luck to you.
Right.
I also have another curiosity. So as we said, like musicians are more of a solo job than ours, because we will come together, rehearse it. So I wonder, for example, a violin. He practiced the score or the part, by himself. Do then all the strings come together before they come together with the orchestra, or they go from solo to like eventually 80 members, or how big the orchestra
So
is?
normally, if it happens, they practice by themselves, as you said, and then they meet for the first rehearsal for the first time with the conductor. Sometimes for very hard pieces, the conductor might want, strings alone rehearsal, and then winds alone and then together. But it's normally not the case. And this is also very different because, of course, you practice. So it means you know your part, but it has to be put into context. So, for instance, if you don't have a solo and you're playing a violin, you have to play that accompaniment in a way that underlines the other colleague's solo without, for instance, if you play the part to forte, they won't hear it, right? So this is also a problem because they don't have the score in front of them. So the conductor is actually the only one who knows what happens when. They just have their part.
Right.
So maybe in a new piece that they've never played before, they might not know what's going on
With the
others.
Mm.
So that's why it needs a conductor, to put it into shape.
That's very interesting, though. I wonder if, would you think, in the future, this could be like a way to approach to the ballet? If you would just if you study your part by your own, and then at some point you come together and you rehearsal together. So when you have to learn a choreography, it's your own job to do. And then basically there is our ballet master or the rehearsal director or the assistant, whoever it is, that just has to put all the pieces together, but you know already what you have to dance and how you have to do it.
I think that's, I don't know, my personal feeling is that I think that's already part of our job and responsibility. We work on ourselves, we train, we have to learn choreography, especially maybe when it's not a premiere and it's something that we've danced before. I think as individuals, and what makes it nice and productive for everyone is that we each take our responsibility to come prepared in a certain way.
I mean, that's the best case scenario. That's
Yeah.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
But I feel what makes it really nice for our job is the moment that we come together and we collaborate and, figure out how a pas de deux can work together. I think that cannot be done
of course, pas de deux,
itself,
of course.
but also as a group, because I can go and practice all I want by myself and think that it's correct, but maybe it's not in relation with everyone in the group, and what will make it impactful.
But eventually that will happen, because eventually you come together, as it happens in the orchestra, and then you'll have someone who leads you and guides you and tells you how to balance everything. I think it will just be more efficient as a work, and I think the rehearsal could be organized in a such better way, this way, if everyone does some individual time where they learn what they have to do, and then they just come together and you just rehearse it. You don't have to teach it, you don't have to waste time about, of course we're talking about not creations, pieces that they were done already and maybe danced already,
But there's always new dancers, and you always have to work with that new dynamic that enters a company. Yeah, and find the balance between maybe the people that have done that work for 5 years and others who have just joined a company. So I think that's what's nice, that you can teach each other.
True, but don't you think this will be also more empowering for oneself? The fact that you have your job to do, and then it's not all that you have to rely on who's in front of the room, but sometimes it's empowering knowing that you can have your own job to do alone, which is like I'm learning and I'm doing, and then you come together, and then it's of course the job of the ballet master or the rehearsal director then to put everything together. But as you have some kind of like active responsibility into it.
Of course. I think that's the ideal situation.
That's the ideal situation.
Absolutely.
And which people do already. I'm not
Exactly.
saying
I
that
think
no
it
one
happens
does.
already in big companies.
I'm not saying no one does, but I really mean it as like putting it as a structure inside ballet companies, this way of working. Of course, inside maybe the working hours, even though like when the orchestra members are rehearsing individually, are they doing it in their working time or like off the working time?
No, off the working time.
Off of their working time, you see.
They practice by themselves.
Okay.
Yes. Of
Good.
course, yeah.
See, I think it's a bigger
That's why
conversation.
sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's the worst case scenario. Then
Exactly.
what happens is like people don't do it, and then it's a mess.
Yeah.
Good.
So it's called sight reading, meaning it's like reading a book. You know how to read. You have to read that book. So they know how to play, but they come in the morning to the first rehearsal and they read the music.
Ah, right.
And of course, professional musicians can do it very well, but it also depends on the piece. If it's very demanding, it might be not so easy.
Right.
So they rely on that a lot, especially in like British orchestras where they play a lot of repertoire. They don't have the time to go home and practice again. So
Lots of nutcrackers.
Moving on to something a bit more personal now. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received about art or creativity?
Well, I know it might sound very cheesy, but I think it's right, and it is: be true to yourself, be authentic. Because especially as an artist, but as a conductor, you're in front of people, and they can immediately feel if you're acting because you are that way, or if it's because you want to be someone else or you want to achieve something else. So just be you, and people will either like you or not, but at least it's you. So that would be it.
If you could collaborate with any artist, living or deceased, what would it be and why?
Gosh, that is hard.
Another hard questions.
I think I'd love to meet Beethoven to ask him about his tempi, because there is a big conversation about the tempi written. Someone says he wrote them. Someone says they were written after him. Some say his metronome didn't work. So I'd love to ask him, or just be there when he performed them and see. But then again, he was not such a great guy to spend time with. So if I were to spend, maybe have lunch with someone, it would be definitely Rossini, because he was a great guy and he cooked very well and he loved to eat.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Great.
That would be it. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
So we have, there's like these questions that we're gonna ask every guest.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them you already answered. So in your opinion, what should we invest in, whether if it's technology, education, or collaboration, to ensure that dance remain a living, evolving art form for future generation? And in your case, also the way of conducting. We are also like breaking boundaries, stereotypes within time. Does that also affect conducting and how you approach eventually an orchestra, a score?
Yeah, so times have changed and we have to realize that and go with it. I think big theaters are doing very well in educational projects. I think it's great that, I know a lot of theaters invite schools to rehearsals, or they just do performances for schools. Same as great orchestras do it. I've also conducted a lot of kids concerts, and it's great because I remember as a kid I was invited with my school in Milan to go and see the Quattro Stagioni by Vivaldi, and I still remember that it fascinated me so much that I went home I looked for the CD and I was listening to it all the time. I wanted to know everything about it. And I think it might not impact all of them, but if this kind of things impact at least, 5%, 10% of them, would already be a great achievement.
Nice.
And also I think, social media is a great platform. Of course, a lot of times, especially classical music, is seen as very old-fashioned, very, not for everyone. But I think it can be a great tool to make our audiences a bit more vast, and I think it has to be used cleverly, of course, because we shall not forget that the quality should always be at its best. So I don't really like when people, go out and do flash mobs on the streets, because, of course it brings attention, but it also makes it look a bit cheap in a way.
Mm.
But this is my personal opinion, of course.
Right.
And I think it goes with the same in dancing, I guess.
Yeah.
Quality has to be at its best, and then of course you can. But I think you should try to invite people into the theater, not let the artist go outside, because otherwise it changes its values.
Right.
Values, yeah.
Otherwise, people will just be more drawn than to do that instead of coming to theaters and then slowly theaters.
The importance of live theater.
No.
Now, talking about some challenges, have you ever experienced a moment, whether during a project or a specific situation, where you felt confident and secure, but something or someone made you feel out of place or caused your confidence to falter? How did you navigate that experience?
Oh, well, it happened indeed, yes. So I won't mention names or things.
No, please.
But
don't.
So I was doing this concert series, and we were playing these pieces on a little tour. So, and already during rehearsals, a player made sure to let me know that he didn't like a certain passage that I was conducting. And of course, me being very young, he was very experienced, is very experienced. So I tried to, not follow his advice, but understand his advice. But it was against what I've, felt in that moment and what I've, So I decided to carry on my path, right? So during the concert, this moment happened, and I did it as I rehearsed it. And he willingly didn't follow me. And he started to look at me in a very, very bad way. And from that moment on, he never looked at me again during that concert. He was just concentrated on the concertmaster as, a sign of not respect, or, He really wanted to make sure that I understood that he was, off with me. So it happened, and I was very confident, but this really, and it happened during a concert.
No.
And I still have to learn a little bit to expand this barrier, because negative people are out there, and of course they want to put you down, but you should not let them. And it was a very difficult concert after that, because I was happy with myself because I didn't follow. I don't know if I was happy. I was, I stood secure. I was secure, and I stood by what I wanted to do. But then again, it impacted me in a way. So it was it made me think.
Did you have a conversation with this person afterwards or no?
No.
And why did you decide at the end to keep your own decision and not follow his feedback, let's say, or?
Well, there was a certain passage where I think there was a key change, and for key change in that place, a key change needed a bit more time. So I did a little ritardando, if you want to know it specifically, and yes. he wasn't going with that.
Okay.
But these certain things are choices that you make at home while studying. So it's not that you stand up and decide to do it out of the blue, right? So, and I still think in that place it should be done like that. There are many conductors who do that. Yeah. Many who don't. So,
yeah,
but
sure.
At first I was like, oh, it's great that he wants to, interact with me. But then again, I was like, but why do you have to do it in front of the whole orchestra?
Oh, I
in
see.
this, imperative way.
It's like an ego play.
You
like-
could have.
Is it because you were younger, maybe?
Yes.
And you wanted
And,
to...
yes, and I've spoken to many conductors, and it always happens. There are always a few people in the orchestra that want to test you, and yeah, I probably now I would have reacted differently, but
Fine.
one learns.
It's a power move, let's say,
Yeah.
he made. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, also sometimes, because of course they can picture who you are in the first 5 seconds, right? I mean, they at least say it, but it's true. The way you walk into the room, the way you hold your scores, the way you say good morning, everybody. But they don't realize that the conductor does it as well. Might take maybe 20 minutes, but you can already spot the troublemakers. You can spot the one who are very passionate. You can spot the ones who maybe didn't sleep because their kid didn't let them. So, and sometimes you get the information wrong. So I was doing another concert in Italy this time with a professional orchestra, and there was this one guy who would look at me all the time in very annoyed way, and I was concerned about it. I was like, why? I think it's going great. So at the last day, I met him in the corridor, and we just started chatting, and then I realized I was totally wrong. He was like, my family is having holidays with my kids. My wife is, swimming at the moment. I'm here doing summer concerts, and it's very hot. It's so annoying,
Good thing.
And it was like, well, you were great because another orchestra musician made a mistake, and with one gesture, you made the orchestra feel together again. So you did well. And I was like, wow, I was so wrong. I thought he was pissed because of me, and it was actually something that didn't have anything to do with me.
Right.
So sometimes you have to learn that you're not always, the center of attention.
Oh, that's such a good
That's,
lesson to learn.
yeah.
In general, for everyone.
For everyone, every field, art, not art.
For everyone. Because it's true, sometimes you really interpret like others people, like moods of things as sign against us, but it's really not the case all the time.
Like in the studio as a dancer, maybe you're practicing a solo and you hear someone laughing and you think, oh,
they're laughing at me.
Yeah, and maybe they were thinking about last night what they did,
Right, exactly.
So you never
this
know.
happens so many times.
It's not always the case, but it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember me being at a ballet school, like with the director or the teacher would meet me in the corridor. And I would say hi, and he or she wouldn't reply. I would be like, oh my god, he hates me, or like
What
he's
have
gonna...
I done?
Yeah, he doesn't like my dancing, and they were probably thinking what they had for lunch, or they had to cook for dinner in the evening.
Yeah.
But it's very crazy what our mind does to us.
Yeah, it's a lot based on our insecurities, most of all, no? Like,
very
but
much.
It's true, people have lives, so
Yeah.
it's just that.
This is a very you can answer to this in different ways, and you pick the one
Or not at all.
or not at all. What is success to you?
Well, to me, I think it would be finding the right balance between personal life and artistic life. What we don't realize is, of course, we are artists, but we are people as well. So if you of course, you have to put all of yourself into achieving your goals. But is it what you really want to be, maybe super successful and be completely alone because no one stands you and maybe you don't have time for family or a partner or whatever? And I've realized this is not completely what, I would prefer to compromise a bit on the career maybe, but have a healthy personal life. That would be success to me.
Amazing. I remember some years ago I watched an interview with Cameron Diaz, and they almost asked her a similar question of notoriety, like success in order to be famous, and she replied, famous is part of my job. I'm an actress, and it's part of my job being famous, so it's not the reason why I became an actress or like the reason why I'm doing this. It's just part of it. As a ballet dancer, I need to do my class, whatever. Her being famous would eventually lead her to bigger roles, but it's not the aim, that's not the goal, it's not the reason why.
No.
So, yeah.
Well said though, Federico. I agree with you 100%. Or at least because I am also like you. I rather compromise a little bit of, let's say, like a position or success in a fame, let's say, in that sort of sense, by having a better.
Also, because if you think about it, what is fame without someone behind you? You might be great on stage, or great choreographer or great conductor, but after a concert, when you go and have dinner alone, you just
right. Right. It's all like, I think this also opens, I think, another.
Yeah.
It's about like the identity, when your identity is so tight to your job and to what you do, and then you don't have an identity like outside of that. So, and at some point in life, sometimes, hopefully everything goes always well and you manage to be successful since when you die. But if that doesn't happen, or if you need to change career, or if you have to retire, then when you're alone with yourself without your job, I see many people struggling a lot with that,
I think it enriches you, especially as, like, let's say one of the best scenario and best things that can happen to you have a role created on you as a dancer, right?
Yeah.
And a choreographer asks you to either portray a role. Yeah, you can be that and study that person, but you also need to filter that person within you and your own experiences, because I feel like being on stage is like having a dialogue. I'm not going to go on stage and talk to an audience if I don't know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
I can read a poem, but if I don't have an understanding of that, the audience will realize. I believe the stage is like a mirror. There's no cheating there.
Yeah.
And the audience gets it. So absolutely, you can be so focused on your career and stuff, but if you don't live your life, at some point your dancing will not evolve, because you don't have your experiences and own experiences to bring it
on.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
it comes back to being authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's a circle, you see.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Is it any different than how you imagined it in the beginning of career, this idea of success?
When you're young, you expect to become, the next shooting star.
Mm.
But then life happens.
Right.
And, things change. Your perspective to life changes. Your experiences change, and also you change with them. So that would be it. Of course, it changes, and it should change. Otherwise, you probably haven't understood something.
Amen. On that, I would wrap it up. We have a solid hour.
So, Federico, then what's next then in your conducting, let's say, experience? Tell us a little bit about what you have.
Well, I'm very happy to be making my debut in L'Aquila in about a month. I'll be performing Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 1.
Oh, beautiful.
Pianist Ying Li.
Mm.
Wow.
Yes.
I heard about him. Sorry, that was...
and Mendelssohn Symphony.
Nice.
And then I'm very thrilled to be back to Hamburg, this time as a conductor.
Nice.
In the summer, I'll be conducting in the Hamburg State Opera, Staatsoper. So I'm very thrilled about it and can't wait to be back.
Conducting a ballet that you perform yourself as the lead.
Yes, so it's going to be, a nice circle.
Full circle moment.
Very nice.
Fede, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was incredibly inspiring. I'm so happy we managed to reconnect and see each other. And this talk has been sensational and super inspiring.
If you want to find out more about our guest, you can follow Federico Frigo on Instagram at @FedericoFrigo_conductor.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Good luck for all your future endeavors
Thank
and
you,
everything.
likewise.
Exactly. Thank you.
Ciao.
Kunst. And all.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any artful updates. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Kunst and all for more content. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out and share your feedback. We are Lorenzo, Nastasia, and Francesco. Until next time, stay kunstig.